ISO is a fundamental setting in photography that determines how sensitive your camera's sensor is to light. When you increase the ISO, your camera can capture brighter images, even in low-light conditions. However, higher ISO values also introduce more grain, or digital noise, which can reduce image quality. In well-lit environments, using a lower ISO helps maintain sharpness and clarity. In darker settings, raising the ISO allows you to take photos without a flash, but you may notice a grainier appearance. Understanding how ISO affects both brightness and grain is essential for achieving the desired look in your photos. By balancing ISO with other settings, like aperture and shutter speed, photographers can adapt to various lighting situations. When photographing a dark room using an ISO setting of 100, the resulting image is typically very clean, with minimal digital noise. However, because ISO 100 is not very sensitive to light, the photo will appear significantly underexposed. Details in the shadows may be lost, and the overall scene will look much darker than it appears to the naked eye. This demonstrates the trade-off between image clarity and exposure, especially in low-light environments. While the low ISO preserves image quality, it also limits the camera's ability to capture enough light in dim settings. As the ISO value increases, the camera sensor becomes more sensitive to light, resulting in a brighter image. At lower ISO settings, photos appear smooth and clean, with minimal grain. As we step up to higher ISO levels, the image continues to brighten, making it easier to capture scenes in low-light conditions. However, this comes at a cost. More visible grain, or noise, begins to appear in the photo. The higher the ISO, the more pronounced this grain becomes, affecting the overall clarity and detail. Understanding this progression helps photographers balance brightness and image quality, especially in challenging lighting environments. At ISO 6400, the final image appears noticeably brighter compared to lower ISO settings. This heightened sensitivity allows for better exposure in low-light conditions, making details more visible. However, the trade-off is a substantial increase in noise and grain throughout the image. Fine textures may look less smooth, and color accuracy can be compromised. The overall clarity is affected, with speckled patterns becoming more prominent, especially in shadowed areas. While ISO 6400 can be useful in challenging lighting, the resulting image quality often reflects these limitations. Here, we see a close-up comparison of image grain at various ISO settings. As the ISO increases, the amount of visible noise becomes more pronounced, with higher levels displaying larger and more noticeable grain patterns. Lower ISO values tend to produce smoother, cleaner images with minimal noise. By examining these overlays side by side, the differences in texture and clarity are immediately apparent. This visual comparison helps illustrate how ISO sensitivity directly affects image quality, especially in low-light conditions. Understanding these characteristics can guide photographers in choosing the appropriate ISO for their desired outcome. In low-light photography, selecting the right ISO setting involves balancing several factors. Increasing ISO boosts image brightness, allowing you to capture scenes in darker conditions without a tripod or flash. However, higher ISO values also introduce more image grain, which can reduce overall image quality. Lower ISO settings produce cleaner, sharper photos, but may result in underexposed images if the lighting is insufficient. When choosing an ISO, consider the available light, your desired image clarity, and whether some grain is acceptable for your creative vision. For most situations, start with the lowest ISO that provides adequate brightness, and only increase it as needed to avoid blur or darkness. This approach helps ensure your photos maintain both detail and clarity, even in challenging lighting conditions.